everyone. This is the first ever episode of Mini Rants, and I am your host, Munday. The idea of this podcast I thought of in two different ways at the beginning of this year when I was going through all of my goals that I wanted for 2025, which is something I do at the start of every single year. One of my goals was to bring more awareness to MECFS, a condition I have lived with for the past 10 years. And another one of my goals was to improve public speaking. Now, this isn't necessarily going to improve my public speaking at all, because right now I'm talking to my phone. I'm in a room by myself talking to my phone. So maybe it's not the best, but it's working. And soon I'm hoping that I will be able to bring people on and then I can talk to them. And I do think that this will help with my public speaking in some ways. I'm hoping that this podcast will bring awareness to multiple different illnesses, chronic and invisible conditions, including ones that I don't suffer from. But I also want it to be known that while my health plays a huge part in my life, it is not the only thing in my life that defines me. I can be defined through other things. My health is not my identity. So we may get the odd episode of nothing but pure randomness. Since I want to bring awareness to different illnesses, including those I have very limited understanding of because I only have a couple, I'm hoping to have some guests on my podcast. So please contact me on my Instagram at Munday if you would ever like to share your own story, or if you would ever just want to be on the podcast, and we can arrange that. For the very first episode, I thought it would be best to explain my own story, to explain how I got here, sort of why I'm doing this in a sense. So throughout my entire life, have gone through various health challenges and life experience, which has got me where I am. And I think that other people with chronic or invisible illnesses would like to know that they are not alone, because that is something I've always loved knowing. I have various people in my life who also have chronic illnesses, and I love being able to just sit and chat with them. And I'm like, oh, my feelings are valid because this person's thinking it too. So I know that there's other people with chronic illnesses who may not know people in real life with the same or different chronic illnesses, who maybe just feel like their voices aren't heard, their feelings aren't met because other people in their life don't understand their feelings whatsoever. So I'm hoping it will make you feel less alone, and I'm hoping you'll just get to know me better generally. My story begins at the tender age of 2, when I underwent various medical testings. Everyone knows medical testing sucks, and it's gonna suck even more when you're 2 years old and you have no idea what's going on. Luckily, I have very limited memory of this stage in my life. However, my first memory that I still remember very well to this day was being in a waiting room filled with blue chairs. There was only a couple other people there, and walking down this really long corridor to go have a blood test. I was holding an Iggle Piggle toy with one hand and an Upsy Daisy toy in the other hand, and I had a blood test, and that's my first ever memory. I say recently, this was over a couple years ago, I recently asked my mum why I was getting this blood test, and she told me that when I was 2, I showed various signs of leukemia, such as fatigue, weakness, and easily bruising, also loss of appetite. Fortunately, I did not have leukemia. Yay. But this left my parents with many unanswered questions of their young daughter's health. From the age of 8 onwards, I then started to experience constant stomach aches, which were both physically and emotionally draining. When I was 7, I was so happy because I was at school, and it's in year 2, obviously, being 7. And for the first year ever, obviously I'm young, so it's of course that's the first time, I was getting 100% attendance in school, and I was really happy. But I missed one whole afternoon because it was my auntie and uncle's wedding. I didn't go to the actual wedding, but I went to the wedding party. It was very fun. They had many different activities. We played bingo for chocolate bars instead of money, obviously, because we were children. I did not win a chocolate bar. I'm still very salty about that. But I missed this one afternoon for that wedding. But I got the reward for like the highest attendance. And that is the highest my attendance has ever been. Because from 8 years old, I had my stomach pains. I was off for lots of them. And then things just progressed, as you'll see later. But I was always really salty that I never managed to get 100% because of that wedding. But I love my auntie and uncle, so it's fine. But yeah, so those stomach pains, very emotionally, very physically draining, not fun, do not recommend. Just a few weeks after my 9th birthday, I faced one of the most terrifying moments of my life when I became ill with a viral meningitis. If you don't know what viral meningitis is, I don't exactly know how to explain it to you. I'm so lucky that it wasn't bacterial meningitis. Bacterial meningitis, from all the stories I've heard, much worse. I came off easy. But it was still a very hard moment of my life. It was a roller coaster of a week. I was only in hospital for like a week, but it was a roller coaster because I was going up and down. Medical professions were basically telling my parents to expect the worst. But then, because I dropped very suddenly on a random Wednesday, but then from that Wednesday I managed to pick up a bit, so I was able to leave. I was able to leave the hospital and go home after taking a turn for the worse. So it's great that I picked up again. But then, straight after leaving the hospital, I was still so incredibly weak. I wasn't able to leave the house at all for over a month. And there's a story from the first time I managed to leave the house after having meningitis. I was just going to church. For context, the church that we go to is less than a 5-minute drive from my house. It's like in that direction, less than 5-minute drive. But I'm fully serious when I say less than 5-minute drive. And I know this because once we played Mr. Brightside just as we got in the car to go to church, and we got to church before Mr. Brightside even finished. It's like very quick to get to church. I was 9, so like my getting ready in the morning routine barely took any energy. I set my alarm, church starts at 10. I set my alarm for 5 a.m. because I was just so excited to finally leave the house. I was like, I'm going to look amazing. So I'm getting up at 5 a.m. and I'm starting to get ready at 5 a.m. because like today's going to be the best day. This annoyed my sister, who I shared a room with at the time, because she woke up to this alarm. I did not. She still brings up the story to this day. She's still very mad about it. She misses her extra 4 hours of sleep. She's always loved her sleep. That's always been a known fact. She's still very salty. But that was the first time I got out, but then it was still very slowly having to get back into daily routine. So I was very slowly transitioning back to school. We started with half days, and there was a bunch of arguments because like I would go to my teachers and I'll say, I'm suffering with this and this and this. I need to go home. And they'll be like, no, you're doing a half day anyway. Like, just stay. You'll be fine. And when my mum will pick me up, I will be like covered in rashes, and she's like, does she have to collapse in front of you for you to send her home? Please send her home, because she's saying she needs to be home. Because we know our body the best. Everyone says this. Well, no, actually, no. People do not say this. Not everyone says this. We should be saying this. We know our body best. We understand what our body needs. We need to listen to our body because it's outright telling us what we need. When we ignore what our body is telling us we need, if our body's telling us we need rest, we rest now. Otherwise, our body will force us to rest in the most inconvenient time. That's a story for later. But always listen to your body. I cannot stress that enough. So that was a very complicated thing, having to transition back to school. And that was at 9 years old. We again get up to 11. At this point, I've been suffering with weakness for 2 years. I never returned to my healthier self ever again. And it was a very scary time in my life, not knowing what's going on. And it must have been terrifying for my parents as well, because they also couldn't understand what's going on. And it must be really hard to just know your child's in pain and also know you can't do anything about it. When I was 11, just before I started secondary school, the summer before I started secondary school, I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome / myalgic encephalomyelitis. Despite having an auntie with the exact same condition, I have never heard of this illness before, which also leads me to a point, me not knowing what it was, shows that people do not care about chronic illnesses until they are experiencing it themselves. I always see people fighting to be heard, fighting to raise awareness on their chronic illness, because no one else is going to do that for them. Because if you do not experience it, you do not care about it. It's sort of like out of sight, out of mind. If I'm not feeling it in my body, I'm not going to care. And that's the mentality of the rest of the world, including me when I was younger. I mean, I can't fully blame myself. I was a child. I can only really know things I'm really exposed to. My auntie didn't talk about it to me when I was a child. But still, it's still the mentality of like the rest of the world. We do not care unless we're suffering with it ourselves. And that's something that needs to change within the world. But I also didn't know what this diagnosis meant for me because I have never heard of it. I didn't know the like symptoms, what it meant for, would I have a care plan, would I be able to like recover? I didn't know any of this. This became a very challenging time in my life getting diagnosed. I assume my mum was very happy when I got diagnosed because she finally got to understand what was going on with her youngest daughter. So I think my mum was relieved to get some answers as to what was happening. However, on the other hand, this diagnosis caused very negative reactions from my dad. My dad has always made it clear that he's wanted a strong son, and him having a daughter with a chronic illness that changed on the day-to-day life, some days I can't even get out of bed. He must have hated it to a point that I can't understand because he's always wanted a strong son. And then I was now a weak daughter, the exact opposite of that. So he did not like this at all. I was often called lazy by him because he didn't understand what I was going through in my body. He has since apologized through other people. He's told other people that he did this and he's sorry for it. I don't think he's ever apologized to me. Not that I would want him to, but it is like a big thing that I still carry with me 8 years later. It's caused a lot of very heavy emotional burden that I carry. And then at the age of 12, my parents split up, and this led to some very traumatic events. When I was first diagnosed, I could tell my dad was slowly just like moving even more away from me because he didn't want that weak child. He's always wanted strong sons. He didn't want that weak child. He was moving away from me. And we had different trauma in our household leading up to the split up, which me and my older sister wanted. My brother was too young at the time to understand things that were going on, but me and my sister wanted this to happen. And they split up. And it led to even more traumatic events to everyone in the household, as well as dealing with family court because of the divorce. We were also dealing with criminal court, which I won't go into too much detail of because that's not fair to other people involved. But it was very much a traumatic time in my life, very much a traumatic time in my siblings' life. So the events leading up to the separation and divorce itself caused mental and physical stress. Now, I want to be clear, MECFS is not a mental disorder. It's not psychological. As much as people want you to believe it's psychological, it is not psychological. It is a physical limiting illness, and that's all I can describe it as. However, our mental health impacts it and makes our physical health worse, and that applies to anyone, no matter how healthy you are. If your mental health is in a rough state, it won't be long until your body joins you there. But for someone with ME, it's easier for your body to get into that rough state because it cannot take care of itself. So the separation caused my mental health to deteriorate and my physical health to deteriorate. It was a difficult time, but I tried to push through as my father's request was to look after my older sister and my younger brother, and I couldn't do that if I was becoming a lump in my bed. This is the point in my life where I started my therapy journey. I'm a huge believer in therapy works, but it's a complicated thing, and I will get into that later. As I grew older, my health challenges continued. My health continued to deteriorate as I was experiencing more trauma. At the age of 17, I was diagnosed with POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. We believe, well, the doctors believe, that this was a result of me having COVID during the pandemic. I was very ill with COVID. I could not move at all. Other people in the household, when they had COVID, they felt just a bit fluish. Fluish? That's not a word. They felt like they had the flu, basically. Like they were down, wanted to be in bed, but they literally could get up and do stuff if they needed to. I could not get up. I could not walk. So we believe I developed POTS after having COVID. And then at the age of 18, I was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder. Each of these diagnoses it's on its own set of challenges. POTS is a more physically limiting condition. I have suffered the symptoms of fainting, severe dizziness, nausea, shortness of breath, bloating, and a racing heart. My days do I hate bloating. I bloat almost every day. It's giving me such body dysmorphia, which is, again, it shows the cycle. Why am I doing it with two hands? It shows the cycle of you have bad physical health, meaning you have bad mental health, but mental health makes your physical health worse. So you have bad physical health, bad mental health, making it worse, and it just goes round and round in a circle, and it's never fun. And then the severity of these symptoms do change on a daily basis. There's some days where I can get up, I can go outside, I can go shopping with my mum, I can do random tasks with my mum, I could maybe even meet a friend if I have like a lot of energy, but I will still be doing all these things in severe pain. If you see me out in the wild, know I'm out in pain. Know that I'm suffering, because I'm always suffering. People do seem to think if I'm out, I'm absolutely fine. No, it's never been the case. Probably never will be. Never ever been the case. And that's something that people need to learn. We're not okay because we're out of the house. We have come out of the house despite pain moving throughout our body. Days you don't see us, they're hard days. Mentally and physically, they are hard days. We're not getting out of bed. We're not getting out of the house because we can't. Not because we're lazy. Not because we just can't be bothered to deal with the world. We aren't leaving the house. We aren't leaving our bed because we can't. And that's it. And then ADHD. Actually, no, I wasn't diagnosed with ADHD. My technical diagnosis is just ADD, attention deficit disorder. This is not really a physical condition, but I do find it to be physically draining at times because it makes my brain work in a different way to people who are neurotypical. So I often have difficulty paying attention, listening when directly spoken to, difficulty with organisation, and being easily distracted. I've already gone off on a bunch of stories. I have notes in front of me. This was supposed to keep me organised. If you do see my eyes just flicking between you and my laptop screen, I have notes in front of me. So oh, I'm going to get so distracted. So I better have bullet points right in front of me so I'm not getting distracted. I'm still getting distracted. I've gone off on 5 tangent stories already. There's no need. I have the notes. I just need to go off on my notes. But anyway, easily distracted. And the stuff that my ADHD causes, it's just my brain is a mess. And because my brain's a mess, it wants to do more things to help sort out the mess. But then that's hard when I then have physical challenges and physical health issues on top of that. I'm unable to do that. So that's just a separate thing that not everyone who has a chronic illness will be aware of, but those who are chronically ill and also neurodivergent will be fully understanding of what I'm saying right now. Throughout all these experiences and all these different life events that I've had to do with my health, I've learned the importance of resilience and self-care, especially self-care. Part of my self-care journey was therapy, like I mentioned earlier. Like I said earlier, I'm a big believer that therapy works. However, you can't just go to the first therapist that you find and expect to be magically fixed. That's never going to happen. I went to 5 different therapists, and none of those worked for me. In fact, a couple of them made my mental state worse, not because they were like crap at their job, just because that's not the therapy that worked for me. It then wasn't until I started trauma therapy where it helped. I had this trauma therapist who told me I had PTSD. And I was saying this to a friend. I was just like, oh, he's told me I've had PTSD. And my friend was just like, Evie, I could have told you this years ago. And I was just like, yeah, I know, but it's nice that it comes to a professional. You know, when you get diagnosed with an illness and you're like, aha, not in my head. It was like that when I don't have a diagnosis of PTSD. My therapist just told me I was suffering through all the symptoms of PTSD. I'm not diagnosed. But yeah. But he told me I had PTSD, and then he worked with me through various traumatic experiences I've had in my life, and that's what really helped me. That's the therapy that worked for me. The 5 therapists I had before then, they didn't work. Not because they were underqualified or they shouldn't have ever been my therapist. They were all great therapists. They just didn't work well for me. So you need to understand that if you're thinking about therapy, if your first therapist doesn't work, that is fine. Try something else. Not every therapist is going to work for you because we all suffer differently with our different things, and that is okay. And we just need to find something that works for us. And maybe therapy is not your thing at all, and that's also okay, because we just all need to figure out what works best for ourselves, for our mental health, not to be so severe that our physical health is getting too severe to the point where we're not getting out of bed in the morning. And again, everyone's going to have a different answer to that question, and that's fine. But you do need to be trying different things if you're able to try find out what you can do, because I think that's really important. So that therapist, the trauma therapist, really helped me. Therapist, even if it is the therapy that works for you, never going to be an easy process. My journey with my mental health has been very tough, not just on me, but on the people who care about me, those surrounding me who love me so deeply. My mental health journey has been tough on them, and dealing with my own mental health has been tough on me, and it was not an easy process to help. I did it for the sake of those who love me, who wanted me to feel what happiness is and stuff like that. I did it for them because I could tell that my mental health was hurting them as well. Now, mental health is your area where you can't always use other people as your excuse. It's sort of unfair on you to be like, well, I have to do this because people want me to do this. You need to want it too, and I think I did want it. No one likes to be stuck in their own head, especially when you have a health issue that is making you physically stuck in bed. Then you're stuck in bed, and some days I can't go on screens because that starts migraines and other stuff. So some days I literally have to be stuck in my own head, and that's a scary place to be. And that is not something I wanted. So I went on my own journey for the sake of my mental health for me. But I also like doing it knowing it was hopefully going to benefit those around me who I know love me. But it's never going to be easy. Therapy was very tough on me. I'm not cured. That's not a thing. Not just like physically wise, mentally wise. I wouldn't say I'm cured. I'm better at managing my life. I'm better at managing my mental health for sure. But I still have rough days. Everyone's going to have rough days. You're going to be okay at the end of the day. You can get through this if you put the effort into, but it's going to be tough, and you need to understand it's going to be tough. Therapy, not an easy process, even if you have the right therapist, but having the right therapist does make it easier. Anyways, this is how I manage my physical health, which again, even if you have the same diagnosis as me, and I know this from my auntie, does not mean we're going to cope the same way. My auntie Emma, who has ME as well, she thrives when it's summer and it's warm outside. She loves it. She loves being out in the sun. I'm the complete opposite. If it is hot or even like just slightly too warm, I'm basically dead. Don't try to socialize with me. Don't try to talk to me because I can't. I will potentially get up in the morning, eat breakfast, and then immediately need a nap because that's my situation in the summer. So that is a very clear example of what works for one person will not necessarily work for another person, even if they have the same diagnosis. That's just a thing. But things to help manage my ME was stuff like therapy, which again, can't stress this enough. ME, CFS, not a mental condition. However, getting on top of your mental health will really stop you from getting into a worse place. So please, if you're thinking about therapy, try it out. Pacing is a hard thing. And pacing is something that you really have to do your own. I was about to say research then, that's not the right word. Experimenting. You really have to do your own experimenting to see what pacing is like for you. And also, pacing can change on a day-to-day basis because some days you just have more spoons. If you've heard of the spoon theory, you'll understand that. But basically, each spoon represents like a little ball of energy. A healthy person will spend like 1 spoon on having a shower in the morning. Someone with a chronic illness will spend 5 spoons on having a shower in the morning. Sort of like that. That's sort of how other people with chronic illness explain pacing in a sense, spending your spoons wisely. Sleep management. This is another interesting thing. Not interesting in any ways. I don't like it, but it is a thing. Some of the ways to sort of look after yourself and sort of manage your symptoms in a way goes against you because of what your symptoms are. I'm an insomniac. I'm making this at midnight. It is midnight right now. I should be in bed. I'm not because I'm an insomniac. I can't get to sleep. However, managing my sleep can be helpful, but I can't manage my sleep because of my symptoms, but managing my sleep manages my symptoms, and blah, 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 blah. Circle. It goes round and round. Life. Same with diet. A balanced diet. Everyone says it. You need a balanced diet. Blah, 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 blah. Some days I can't eat a balanced diet, okay? Some days my mouth will not let me chew the food. There's this thing I have with roast potatoes. Roast potatoes, as nice as they possibly are, I cannot swallow them to save my life. And some foods, that's just the case. So I don't always eat healthy. There's been 2 weeks of my life where I survived just on yogurt. My jaw was locked the other week, so I couldn't chew. So again, diet can be helpful, not always helpful. Support groups, online and in person. I went to an in-person support group, which was not demanded. That is not the right word. The NHS told me to go to this support group. It was an NHS support group. That was an interesting experience. I was the youngest person in the room. I might do a separate episode on that because actually that was a crazy experience. But that was an in-person one. And then online, I've had group chats. I may be thinking about making my own group chat. If you are interested in that, let me know. Because group chats are very interesting. The first group chat that I was in was all girls just talking about our chronic pain, and it's great. There's clearly one person in that group chat who just needs someone by her side, and you can tell that she does not have that in real life, so she was seeking it out in this group chat, and I felt really bad for her. But it was a situation where it's just like, I do feel bad for you, but I can't help you. I don't understand how to explain that more. I hope that girl has all the best. This group chat has not been used in ages. I'm still in it. It just hasn't been used in months. Wish that girl all the best. But she needs help that we could not give her through messages, if that makes sense. But we were all like really supportive. We are all hoping that she gets the help that she clearly does need with her physical health. Increasing salt is good for POTS at times. I have slow sodium tablets. I take up to 4 a day. They help when I'm feeling like really dizzy to the point of fainting. They prevent me from fainting. There was a shortage of them. So I went for a while without them, and I fainted a lot more in that period. And that was not a fun time in my life. So they did help me. Just because they help me doesn't mean they will help you. Medications can be helpful. Again, different medications will work for different people. Please speak to your doctor about medications. That is not something I can help you with. Compression garments, compression socks. I need to get compression socks. This is not something that I personally use, but I know it's going to work based on blood pooling. That doesn't make any sense, but it makes sense in my head. Based on the blood pooling I've experienced, I know if I had compression socks, I wouldn't get blood pooling as much. So I'm going to buy myself some compression socks, and then I'll get back to you on if that works for me or not. And then mindfulness techniques. I've learned some of them in therapy. You can learn some of them on the internet. The internet is full of wonderful things. It's also full of not so wonderful things. Be careful on the internet. But yeah, and that was sort of my coping strategies for life. Organisation tools for ADHD as well. And some organisation tools you need to tell your family about if you live with your family. Assuming you don't live alone, you need to tell the people you live with what your organisation tools are so that they can keep to the same things as well. Obviously not in their own rooms. If you live with roommates, don't force your roommates to do the same organisation techniques in their own rooms. That's stupid. But like in the house, if you're saying, oh, I need the plates to be put here and I need this to be done this way or whatever, for the sake of like my mind staying in structure, have a sit down with your family, have a sit down with your roommates, talk to them about it, and hopefully that will help you. Others can keep you grounded. Not grounded, that is not the right word. Others can just like make sure you're keeping where you want to stay. If you want to keep at a nice organisation level, other people can like sort of hold you responsible in a way. But yeah, thank you for listening to my very first episode of Mini Rants. I do hope you have enjoyed. I know it was literally just me rambling to a camera and just hoping someone will listen to it, but hopefully someone did. And if you enjoyed it, subscribe and leave a comment and tell me what you want to hear about next time. If there's anything you're interested in too, if there's any techniques that you've always wondered, I want to see if it works on someone else, let me know and I will try them and I'll get back to you on it works for me. But just because if it does work for me and it doesn't mean it will work for you, if it doesn't work for me, it still could work for you. So things are worth trying yourself anyway. But I do understand wanting to see if it works for someone else first. I understand that. And as I said at the start of the episode, contact me on Instagram at Mini Munday if you want to be in any future episodes or if you just have anything you want me to try out. Because I also do vlogs. I have a YouTube channel called Mini Munday Vlogs. Subscribe to that. These episodes will probably be posted there as well if you're not listening to it on Spotify. But go subscribe to that. Stay tuned for more interesting discussions between me, to myself, other people, hopefully. And I know my friend did say that she would come on to just do the odd episode because I do think I talk just about physical health, like for like every single episode. My mental health could get to a bad place again because I know my own triggers now. So my friend did tell me that she would come on and we can just rant about like anything and everything our minds come to. So we might do that at some point. So yeah, stay tuned for conversations like that. Remember to keep yourself as your own top priority. That's very important. It sounds selfish, Maybe it is selfish. Who cares? You need to be your own top priority. Because you just do. I don't really have a reason. You just have to be your own top priority. You need to take care of yourself mentally, physically. You need to take care of your own goals. Do a goals list. I'm telling you all now. Make a little goals list. I do that at the start of the year. It helps me out. I also do it at the start of every month. So I do like little sub goals each month to help me achieve a bigger goal. So you should all do that because it works for me, sort of. But yeah, take care of yourself. And I will see you next time. Bye!